You know how to do the thing. You've done it before. You might even be good at it. But right now, you're doing everything except that. You're scrolling. You're organizing your desk. You're checking email for the third time in 10 minutes. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're aware that this isn't laziness. It's something else entirely. This happens to almost everyone. There's a task sitting in front of you. You understand what needs to be done. You have the skills. You have the time. But instead of starting, you find yourself caught in a strange loop of delay. You move the task from today to tomorrow. You tell yourself you'll do it later when you feel more ready. And the strangest part is that the task itself often isn't even difficult. The default explanation doesn't hold up. People say it's about willpower or discipline. They say you just need to push through or stop being lazy. But if that were true, why would you avoid tasks you've successfully completed before? Why would someone delay a simple email they could write in 5 minutes? Why would a designer avoid opening a project file for a design they already know how to execute? If it were really about discipline, you'd struggle with every task equally. But that's not what happens. You can spend 3 hours researching something that interests you without any effort at all. You can reply to some messages instantly while letting others sit for days. The pattern isn't random. It's selective. And that selectivity points to something deeper than just lacking willpower. The real answer sits in a less obvious place. Research into task avoidance shows that when people delay tasks they're capable of doing, it's rarely about ability. It's about emotional prediction. Your brain is running a constant background process. It's estimating how a task will feel, not just how hard it will be. And when that prediction comes back negative, even slightly negative, avoidance kicks in automatically. This isn't a conscious choice. You're not sitting there thinking through the pros and cons. Your brain is making a fast, emotional calculation about whether engaging with this task will feel unpleasant. And if the answer is yes, even if the unpleasantness is mild, you get a quiet urge to do something else, anything else. The feeling doesn't have to be fear. It can be boredom. It can be frustration at how tedious the task is. It can be a vague sense of discomfort because the task is ambiguous, or because you're worried the result won't be good enough. It can even be annoyance that you have to do the task at all. These aren't dramatic emotions. They're small, barely noticeable. But they're enough. Studies on procrastination show that people delay tasks not because the tasks are hard, but because they expect the process to feel bad. A student might avoid writing an essay not because they can't write, but because they predict the experience will be uncomfortable. The discomfort might be boredom, self-doubt, or just the mental effort of staying focused. The task becomes emotionally costly before it even begins. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. You're not avoiding the task, you're avoiding the feeling you think the task will create. And your brain is very good at predicting feelings. It remembers the last time you did something similar. It remembers the effort, the boredom, the uncertainty. It uses that memory to create an expectation. And if that expectation is unpleasant, you delay. This is why you can avoid tasks you've done successfully in the past. Success doesn't mean the process felt good. You might have finished the report, sent the email, made the call. But if the experience was tedious or stressful, your brain has filed that away. The next time a similar task appears, that memory influences your emotional prediction. You know you can do it, but you also remember it didn't feel great. The brain doesn't distinguish between big discomfort and small discomfort very well in these moments. It just registers that something won't feel pleasant. A mildly boring task gets the same avoidance response as a genuinely difficult one. The intensity might differ, but the mechanism is the same. Your system is designed to move you away from predicted negative feelings regardless of scale. Think about the last time you delayed responding to a message. Not a difficult message, just a normal one. You read it. You knew what to say, but you didn't reply. Why? Because replying required a small amount of mental effort, or because you predicted a mildly uncomfortable interaction. The delay wasn't about ability. It was about anticipated emotional cost. Or consider this. You need to organize files on your computer. You know exactly how to do it. You've done it before. But the task feels tedious, so you put it off. You're not confused about the process. You're avoiding the boredom. Your brain has learned that this task is dull, and it's steering you away from that feeling. The same thing happens with creative work. A designer might avoid starting a project not because they don't know what to do, but because the blank canvas feels uncomfortable. A writer might delay opening a document because the act of writing requires sustained focus, and sustained focus feels effortful. The skill is there. The avoidance is emotional. Even tasks you enjoy can trigger this response if they require effort. You might love playing an instrument, but avoid practicing. You might enjoy cooking but delay starting dinner. The enjoyment exists, but so does the effort required to begin. And in that moment, your brain weighs immediate comfort against future satisfaction. Immediate comfort often wins. This is why starting is often the hardest part. Once you're in the task, it's rarely as unpleasant as predicted. But your brain doesn't know that yet. It's working with the prediction, not the reality. And predictions based on past effort or past boredom are enough to keep you stuck. Here's the part most people don't realize. The avoidance often creates more discomfort than the task itself. You delay the email and now you're carrying a low-level guilt. You avoid the project and now there's background anxiety. The task hasn't disappeared. It's sitting there, generating a constant quiet stress. But in the moment of avoidance, your brain is only calculating immediate relief. Do this task and feel effort now, or delay it and feel relief now. The delay wins. This is not the same as being incapable. You're not lacking skills or intelligence. You're experiencing a very normal emotional response to anticipated effort or discomfort. Your brain is trying to protect you from unpleasant experiences, even small ones. The problem is that this protection often makes things worse. It's also not the same as clinical procrastination or executive dysfunction. Some people experience task avoidance as part of broader challenges with focus, motivation, or emotional regulation. What we're talking about here is the everyday version, the version that happens to most people even when there's no underlying condition. It's a feature of how human brains assess effort and emotion, not a flaw in character. And it doesn't mean you're always going to avoid tasks. Sometimes the emotional prediction is neutral or even positive, and you start without hesitation. Sometimes the task feels urgent enough that the discomfort of delaying outweighs the discomfort of doing. But when the emotional math tips the other way, avoidance becomes the default. The uncomfortable truth is that your brain is making these calculations constantly. You're not always aware of it. It happens in the background, beneath conscious thought. And most of the time, you only notice the result. You notice that you're scrolling instead of working. You notice that the task is still sitting there, untouched. You notice the guilt or frustration, but you don't notice the prediction that started the whole cycle. There's also a secondary layer to this. Once you've avoided a task several times, a new pattern forms. The task itself starts to carry the weight of previous delays. Now you're not just avoiding the task, you're avoiding the feeling of having already avoided it. The guilt and shame from past delays get added to the emotional prediction. The task becomes heavier than it was originally. This is why some tasks can sit on your list for weeks. Each day you don't do them, they accumulate emotional weight. What started as a simple task becomes a task plus guilt plus shame plus anxiety. And now the emotional prediction is even more negative. The cycle reinforces itself.